Hi, I'm Helen Mackay. I'm a Hawkesbury resident. Back in the earliest days of settlement at the Hawkesbury, behind me was originally a sandy beach, and they had to pull the boats up that were bringing produce from Sydney, or produce going from the Hawkesbury to the Sydney settlement. By 1795 they built a wharf here. However, over the successive years the original wharfs were flooded, washed away in the floods, and when Governor Macquarie came here, he recognised the incredible importance of transporting goods to Sydney from the Hawkesbury. So he commissioned that a very substantial wharf be built, a wharf large enough to take boats of up to 100 tonnes. James McGrath and John Howe were given the contract to build the wharf. The contract still exists, which in itself is quite a remarkable piece of documentation. They commenced building the wharf in 1814, but by 1816, before it was completed, it too had been washed away by floods. So Macquarie commissioned the emancipist architect Francis Greenway to come to design a very substantial wharf that would withstand flooding and be suitable for transporting the important goods to Sydney. Greenway designed the wharf. It was built by Howe and McGrath at considerable expense, and that wharf continued to be used by very large vessels until the 1870s. By then the railway had come to Windsor and the wharf was not so important in terms of sending agricultural produce to Sydney. However, it continued to be used right up until the 1930s, 1940s. The remnants of this wharf still exist. This is probably the oldest wharf in existence on the Australian continent. There were earlier wharfs in Sydney, but they went with the development and the landfilling and so on. This wharf at Windsor remained in use, and the remnants are here for us to see today. If the proposed option 1 that goes ahead, that wharf will be completely destroyed. The very first pylon is to be located exactly where the remnants of the wharf are. We've been able to photograph, we've been able to inspect the pylons, the handmade iron spikes. Prior to our inspection today, it was extensively documented by Edward Higginbotham in 1986, photographed, and he verified this in fact was the Greenway Wharf. Hasn't been able to be found by the current project officers who are doing the conservation management plan. When we asked, are they going to salvage the wharf? Are they going to protect the wharf? They said, we can't find it. It is extremely evident today, both from the land and from the water, although it has become overgrown with a lot of the noxious weeds on the river bank. We would really like to see this wharf preserved, salvaged, in situ, because it is the oldest remaining wharf in Australia. It was designed by Francis Greenway, it was commissioned by Lachlan Macquarie, and it was essential to the shipping of goods and therefore the survival of the Sydney settlement. The government really needs to rethink the location of this proposed crossing, as it destroys so many pieces of heritage, affects so much of our heritage. The archaeological record will be gone forever. We really believe that this wharf needs further documentation, it needs further exploration. Quite a lot of it is buried under the bank. When some anti-scouring work was done, that could easily be uncovered and people would be able to actually come and visit and see evidence of really forward planning, really strategic thinking by the very earliest colonial settlers. And not only that, the fact that this wharf has withstood something like 99 floods is a testament to the incredible engineering that was done by the two men, Howe and McGrath, and the planning by Francis Greenway. We would be pretty upset if any of other Francis Greenway buildings were being destroyed and not left for the record.